Hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm here with my brother Kirk, hoping that all of you can have some family time this week as well. Just doing a little, as I mentioned, just going to do a little draft recap, go over what some of the best picks and the worst picks were of the draft. Now, everybody has their opinions, but these are using numbers and facts and equations, so basically, if you're disputing me, you're wrong. So my data is right. We are completely freestyling here. Usually I have not really a script, but a few things written down. This one is completely going to be kind of off the wall, and it hopefully won't take too long. I spoke with Kirk last night and asked him to pick a couple of, I still have the draft board, asked him to pick a couple of picks that stood out to him as the 4 best and the 4 worst picks of the draft. So just looking at his picks, I like some of them already. Monte Ball in the second round by Nate. That was pretty terrible. We'll find out if it makes the list. Zach Stacy, also in the second round by you. That was pretty bad.
That was bad.
That was bad.
That was very bad.
Yep. Ben Tate in the 4th round by Micah. I don't know if that one was as terrible because he had like 2 really good games when he came back from injury.
Really good. No.
I said pretty good.
You said really good.
Okay, well, they were pretty good. Okay, I'll change it. And then RG3 from Cam in round 5. Was it a bad pick? Yeah, but at the same time, it was the 5th round. I mean, if you look at who I took in the 5th round, Bishop Sankey, and then in the 6th round, Toby Gerhardt. 7th round, Charles Clay. Then Eric Deck. My draft was terrible. How am I in the top 3 teams right now is what I want to know. I have the 2nd best record right now, and that's just mind-boggling.
Denver running backs.
Denver running backs have kind of carried me. Yeah, that's true. I would just like to put a precursor on all of this. Everything that we're going to go through is through week 9 data, so I understand we had weeks 10, 11, and 12. That's not included in this. It just took forever to get this data the way I wanted it to. Didn't feel like redoing it and thought it might take too long. So you have a couple of the best picks that you thought too. Obviously the worst picks towards the top of the draft, best picks lower. Manuel Sanders in the 7th round by Justin. That was a great pickup. He traded him away. And then I traded him away, and then he found his way back to Justin.
Yeah,
so,
he's been on a lot of teams, but overall he's just been consistent this year.
Yeah, he's a productive fantasy football whore, is what he is.
Yes.
Because he's getting around, for sure. You also have DeAndre Hopkins by Rick in the 9th round. That was a great pick.
Yeah, he's doing good, but the best part about it was round 9.
Yep.
So he got him that late, which is impressive.
It's how much bang for your buck, which is really what this whole thing is about. But we'll get into that here in a second. Golden Tate. Nate picked him up in the 8th round. Doesn't have him anymore.
Right.
But that was a great pick. I think Calvin missing a lot of time definitely benefited Golden Tate.
Yeah, I think so too. Matt Stafford got a lot of repertoire with Tate. And
that's good. That's good words.
Thanks. And I think they got good chemistry right now.
And then Calvin Benjamin, in terms of receivers, probably the best receiver value, or at least where you've picked him in terms of what. And that was picked by Cam in the 12th round. Cam just traded him away. I know it was tough for Cam to part with him. He was a top 10 wide receiver. You wouldn't know it. It was very quiet. He was like the Tayshaun Prince of the NFL.
Yep.
Just scoring a lot of points, but not making a big name for himself.
Yep.
So we'll see where those guys rank after we go through all the other position ranks. So again, I would just like to put a precursor out there that all of this data is through week 9. And if you look at some of the best picks, one of them you might say, Dave, although I drafted for him, had Jordy Nelson in the 2nd round. Jordy Nelson's been killing it. Well, he also picked him in the 2nd round, so he should be killing it. He should be getting him a lot of points. So that would not probably, I don't know for sure, but that would not probably be considered one of the top picks because he was taken early. So it's really value. So when we look at the rankings, if they were taken in an early round and they have done worse than what that position's average would be, it would drop them even further. And if you were taken in a late round 12 through 15, and they were doing far greater than what their average is, then that would certainly help them. So a lot of them, if they are about average and they were picked in about the middle round, it's not going to do much for them. So with that, I guess let's go over your picks first.
Yeah.
So we'll just do a control find here. You guys can probably hear me clicking away, and that's okay. Monty Ball. Actually, I don't. hold on, let me add some numbers to this. I told you this is all freestyle. There's nothing about rehearsed in this. That's for damn sure. Okay, now let's find Monty Ball. Excel Whiz, this guy right here. So Monty Ball ranked 165th in this ranking.
Yeah.
So that was really bad. Yeah, that was a really bad pick. So he was in the bottom 20, it looks like. So that was a correct pick. Let's see, Zach Stacy.
I don't want to see it.
128. So he actually had positive. So he actually did better than what the average running back did. And that's because a lot of the running backs would put up 1 point or something like that all season. They'd get a carry for 10 yards, and that would be their whole season. Well, they count because they've scored.
Right.
So Zach Stacy, at least through week 9, still above the average barely.
Well, he started the first, 2 games?
Yes. I think more than that. And, I said this earlier. I think he would have done a lot better had, what's that quarterback for St. Louis? No, the one guy, Sam Bradford. Had Sam Bradford still been there.
He's forgettable.
Yeah, apparently so. Ben Tate, drafted by Micah, still in the positives again. So not terrible. Literally just 1 pick behind Drew Brees in terms of this ranking. So if you look at it that way, not bad. I know you just traded for Drew Brees, so that's got to be a little painful. But if you think about the quarterbacks, how many of them are doing so well this year? Especially with 6 points per passing touchdown. Drew Brees just hasn't thrown a lot of touchdowns, thrown a lot of yards. So Drew Brees still done very well, but so yeah, Ben Tate not too terrible there. And then you also had RG3 as one of the worst picks. He was the worst pick, so you nailed that one. You got it. The worst pick in the draft went to Cam with Robert Griffin III. Granted, this was through Week 9 data, so he did play the last couple of weeks, so that probably bumped him up a little bit. But yeah, that was definitely a poor pick. Looking at some of your best picks, Golden Tate, that was a very good pick, 15th overall.
Yep.
So really good there. Emmanuel Sanders has got to be up here. I'm telling you, when I'm typing on the video, it goes like so they're gonna just be crazy.
Sorry,
Emmanuel
guys.
Sanders, 25th best, so still a good pick up there. Again, it was through Week 9 data. I thought he would have been a little bit higher, but a lot of that takes into consideration, it was still the 7th round, so it was still relatively high. I mean, it was halfway through. So a lot of these picks down here towards the bottom are where you're going to find most of the value. DeAndre Hopkins, 27th best, so still a top 50, top 30 guy. So he's right there too. Right below Tom Brady, who Tom Brady definitely has had to move up the charts over the last couple of weeks that this wouldn't represent.
What surprises me is that right there. Let's talk about that.
Which one?
Lamar Miller.
Lamar Miller. Okay. Where was he drafted? I guess is my. Oh, he was drafted by Evan. Lamar Miller. Well, 8th round.
Okay.
Noshawn Reno went out, so Lamar had a really good couple of weeks, and you look at. I mean, you have Andre Ellington now, so but you look at Andre Ellington, 17 points, 4 points, 18, 5, 3, 20. So he's super all over the board. Lamar Miller's been getting between 8 and 14 just about every week. So I think that's probably what's bumping him up there. One thing that I want to talk about real quick, that one right there, the Lions defense representing.
Yeah.
Finally, we have a defense. Now, if Stafford would get his head out of his butt, I'll keep it kind of edited in case any little kids watch. If Stafford would get things straight, we'd be cruising. I will say the receivers are dropping balls, so that doesn't help. The linemen suck. So our offense, not great right now. But kudos to the defense. They've kept us in some of these games and definitely have given us a couple of wins that we would not have gotten otherwise. So we got Golden Tate, Emmanuel Sanders, DeAndre Hopkins. Last one, one that I think is probably your best pick, Kelvin Benjamin, number 11. So, I believe that was your best pick, your best choose out of here. For the value of what you're getting, definitely done well. The only thing, I mean, if you look at the top 10 people in this in terms of our value, not one wide receiver. Kelvin Benjamin's number 11, not one wide receiver, and that's because wide receivers are so hit or miss, and a ton of wide receivers score. A ton of them score. And so I think in the draft, I may take an alternative approach and go for wide receivers that you know are going to score well, because running backs, how many have we had that statistic, where 25 guys are in the top 20 and we didn't even draft them. Most of those were running backs. Running backs are always going to get beat up, and receivers will too, but if you can get a consistent receiver, maybe not the one that's going to score you 20 points at all, not one time in the season, but the one that's going to score you 15 every single week, I would take that, just looking at consistency. So that's what we have for what Kirk thought, how everything would rank. What we're going to do now, we're going to put up some visuals, and we're going to kind of narrate, and we're going to go through the best and worst picks for each position, and then we'll go over which teams had the best and worst drafts this past year. All right, in keeping with the whole theory of just kind of winging it today, Kirk has not seen any of these, so we're just going to go over the rankings right now, and we will start with the quarterbacks. So we look at the best quarterbacks. Number 1, Phillip Rivers. I drafted him. I knew it. I'm going to brag for a second. I said, hey, I'm going to wait until the 10th round. I believe it was 10th. Yeah, 10th round to draft my first quarterback when other people already had both of their quarterbacks. So I waited, got he was at the time the number 3 quarterback for a while. He had a couple of bad games, one of them -3 against Miami. That brought him down. Ben Roethlisberger was a huge pickup for Justin. Didn't even use him except for like 2 weeks. But now with all the trades, he might kind of be going back and forth with Ben Roethlisberger and Russell Wilson. I don't know. You had a great pickup with Tony Romo.
Yes.
You got him in the 11th round. Excuse me. That was huge. Back up to Peyton Manning. And every single year people say, oh, Tony Romo's a terrible quarterback. The dude is not a bad quarterback. He's usually a top 5 in terms of most of the statistics out there.
Yeah, that was actually a strategy on my part. I knew Tony Romo was going to be my starting quarterback. I knew I was going to be trading Peyton Manning away. Tony Romo, statistically, every year is a top 8 quarterback, and I'm good with that, so I wanted to get a lot of value out of Peyton Manning, and so that's why I drafted him. I didn't know I'd get him that late, but I knew I was going to draft him that year.
And you ended up getting the value for Peyton Manning, but it didn't come until late. I remember right after the draft you were trying to trade Peyton Manning because you did have that idea of trading Peyton Manning, but you weren't able to do it for a while because people weren't willing to give up their stuff for a guy that was older. And, we don't know if he's going to come back or not, so it took you a while.
Right, yeah, it took me an injury or two and a bad performance on a few games for someone to realize the value of Peyton Manning. So.
Yeah, well, you got there. Russell Wilson was chosen by Micah. He chose back-to-back quarterbacks, Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson, so he did trade you Russell Wilson, and from there you traded Cam, and then Russell Wilson found his way to Justin in that big 4-team trade. Russell Wilson has, when he's running a lot, great quarterback because you're getting 1 point for every 10 yards. But he doesn't throw a ton of touchdowns. He's a smart player, and they take their time. They don't throw a lot. So I think, obviously he's a top 4, but kind of wait to see. I think he's a better football player than a fantasy football player.
And this was really interesting this year because in years past, it really has been the mobile quarterbacks that get you a lot of points. The Michael Vicks, Cam Newton's at times, RG3,
his rookie year.
And this year, just not so much. You see Robert Griffin as one of the worst quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater's on there. Cam Newton's even have a off year, I guess, in his standards.
And then looking at some of the other ones, myself and Micah were the only two to have 2 of the top 7 quarterbacks drafted by us. I chose Joe Flacco very late. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Tony drafted him. That's right. Tony drafted him in the 12th round, so he drafted him very late. I should have changed that to Tony. I apologize. Jay Cutler was chosen by Cam, so that was a good pick there. I know he's been frustrating for Cam because he's had those off weeks, but he's still a top 10 fantasy quarterback. And then Matt Ryan by Micah, who is very good at home but pretty terrible on the road. If you look at the worst quarterbacks, as we mentioned before, RG3, I believe he was the worst out of any pick, from what I remember. And then we have Dave, who really I drafted. Josh McCown from Tampa Bay as his backup. He had Andrew Luck already. But man, Josh McCown finally getting the starting role again, so maybe these numbers will change a little bit. But the only picture I have of him is crying. Do you remember that after that press conference? He did that a couple weeks ago. He cried after a loss. Like, dude, come on, get over it. But not a good pickup there. Tyler with Johnny Manziel. I can't really blame Tyler too much. He took him in the 14th round, so he didn't lose too much out of it. But the fact that he hasn't really played in a single game has definitely, obviously, hurt him. But I can't blame Tyler too much. Nobody really knew, and they thought, hey, if he does get a chance to start, which I think everyone could agree, we thought at some point he was going to start.
Did you?
I did. You did not?
I believed in Hoyer.
I think Hoyer is the better quarterback, but I thought eventually Cleveland would lose games and they'd be like, all right, let's just throw him in there to give the fans what they want. So I can't really blame Tyler too much for picking him. And then Tony picking up Teddy Bridgewater. So not a terrible pick there.
He had a few okay games. He's on my team now. So.
Yeah, yep. Running backs, number 1. Now this is obviously through week 9. Ahmad Bradshaw was chosen by Evan in the 14th round. So huge pickup considering at one point he was a top 5 running back. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't. I don't know a lot about Ahmad Bradshaw. I assume he's old?
He is older. He was with the Giants for a long time.
Okay. Yeah, that's just one that just flies off the radar for me.
Yeah, he was a top 5. He did it very quietly and then injured his ankle. Looks like he'll be out probably the whole year. So a good pickup there, but Evan traded him, I believe, to Micah for Brian Quick, second or third weekend. So that didn't end up panning out for Evan.
Oof.
Yeah, that was a rough one, but who would have known, really? Chris Ivory was chosen by Justin. I'm surprised he's not injured yet. He just runs like he's running into a brick wall. He doesn't care who he's hitting, he just runs. But pretty good pickup there, considering where he was chosen, which was the 9th round. And then you have Lamar Miller from Evan. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Fred Jackson from Rick. Rick chose Fred Jackson in the 10th round. I really wanted Fred Jackson. I think every year he's one of those picks that always goes super low and he always does very well, as seen here. The only reason I didn't draft him, at the time I had Jamal Charles, Alfred Morris, Bishop Sankey, Toby Gerhart. I had drafted 4 running backs already. I didn't need a 5th. Otherwise, I would have drafted him. But I think that was a very good pickup. Jessica drafted Darren Sproles with the 5th. I thought that was a dumb pick. I thought he's coming in. He's going to be splitting carries with LaShawn McCoy. I told her, I was like, I don't like that pick.
I don't like drafting a backup running back ever. I don't like putting in a backup running back ever. But the first few weeks, man, he killed it, especially in the receiving game.
Yeah, receiving was big for him.
Yep.
Same with Shane Vereen. He's really getting points from receiving. And DeMarco Murray, surprisingly enough, not higher. But part of that was because Cam chose him in the 2nd round. So for him to be chosen in the 2nd round and still be a top 7 at his position is crazy. That means he's doing that well. So, for example, had Cam chosen DeMarco Murray in the 6th round, he'd easily be number 1. Easily. Then you look at the worst Tony, not really drafting, but keeping Adrian Peterson. Who would have known that would have happened, though? He's one of the worst. He might even, because we don't have the recent data, he might even surpass RG3 as being the worst. I just had him, trading him to Rick. I think he'll do well next year, but just for this year, because he hasn't been playing, he's considered one of the worst draft picks. You have Ray Rice, same reason with Micah.
Yep.
But at the time, he was only going to be suspended 2 games.
Where do you think they're going to be playing next year? What's your
I think Adrian Peterson will be playing in Minnesota.
You think?
The owner already said he expects Adrian Peterson to be... Now, he might just be saying that to get reporters off his butt. But I think Adrian Peterson will be in Minnesota. Part of it depends on DeMarco Murray. This is his contract year. If he does not re-sign with Dallas, I think Adrian Peterson will tell the Vikings, hey, just drop me. And then Adrian Peterson will go play with the Cowboys, which he's wanted to do anyways. Yep. Ray Rice, I have no idea what's going to happen with him. For all we know, he may never play. No team ever may want to take that. I got to believe that some team could take him as a backup. If he gets on a team, I think he'll work his way into a starting role eventually. I think he'll be huge. Maurice Jones-Drew just hasn't done anything, and I feel like Nate has him just about every year.
Seems like that.
And then Christine Michael, I believe you chose him primarily because his name was Christine.
I did not. I chose him because I heard rumors that they wanted to phase out Marshawn at some point.
Well, and that's kind of been the rumors currently.
And I mean, if he went down, at the beginning of the year, Christine Michael was the next guy to come up. Now they got Turbin.
Yeah,
that's really the number 2. So Michael's pretty irrelevant, but I mean, he gets a few carries a game.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
It was a risk.
I think they are. Marshawn and the Seattle Seahawks have kind of both said that it's not going to work for us next year. Looking at the wide receivers, Kelvin Benjamin, Cam, we knew that. He was the number 11 overall. Not many wide receivers in the top. You have Steve Smith up there. He had a couple of huge games. His kind of died off since then. Obviously, Golden Tate, a top one from Nate. That was a great pickup. One of them that you had predicted would be in the top. And Jeremy Maclin from Micah. Jeremy Maclin was chosen in the 7th round, which, because we have 2 keepers now, would kind of be like being chosen in the 5th round in this year's draft. So still pretty good. You have Terrence Williams from Micah also. He really just had a couple games. At the end of the season, if we redid this, Terrence Williams wouldn't even be in the top 15 wide receivers. T.Y. Hilton from Jessica, doing well. Last week, I think he had like 14 points or so. And then obviously we talked about Emmanuel Sanders, great pickup from Justin. Excuse me, Dave. Now, granted, I drafted this, but Dave's team. But I knew he would want Green Bay Packers. Jarrett Boykin just hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
Was it Devontae Adams? Is that their backup? Their other guy? Well, their other Green Bay guy. I had him for a little while, and he's done okay. But sometimes you just pick a guy that's on the team you like. Danny Amendola, I can't believe anyone drafted him. Where did Nate draft him? Nate drafted him in, my goodness, 10th?
Yep.
10th round, yeah. He's just always injury prone. I just don't see that.
His one good year came, I think it was our first year of doing fantasy.
Yeah. Yep.
He was in St. Louis, and I picked him up last round. I remember that, and did well for the first few weeks, and then he got hurt.
Got injured, yeah.
Every single year after that. I mean, he came to New England. I was like, they know what he can do.
Yep.
And he's gonna get hurt again anyway. So.
Yep. Same thing with Wes Welker. He had all those concussions, so rough pickup there. He did get a touchdown this last week, though, I believe. And then Tavon Austin, Nate also picked up. It's crazy that Nate had 2 of those, terrible receivers. Yet for a while he was the guy with all the receivers. Yep. So I think Nate went heavy on receivers, and I can't really blame him any. And then if we look at tight ends, so Martellus Bennett from Rick made his way to Jessica's team. She, I think, has traded him since then, so he's been all over the place. Delaney Walker from Justin, that was a great pick. I didn't see that coming. Oh, Kirk, you know Martellus, okay. Yeah. Antonio Gates from Tyler, I thought this was a terrible pick. I thought Darius Green or whatever, that backup, was going to start getting a ton.
A lot of people thought that.
So I did not think that was a great pick, but turned out to be very beneficial for. He's had Antonio Gates has had huge games and then like nothing games. So it's been. And then Greg Olson from Tony, I thought he would do well. Cam Newton doesn't have a lot of weapons to throw to, so he's going to have to dump it off to his tight end. So I did think he would do well. Worst, Dennis Pitta from Justin. I can't blame him too much. He got injured. Right. Same thing with Kyle Rudolph and Dave. Just got injured. Brandon Pettigrew, Jessica picked him. I thought that was terrible. You already have 2 other tight ends in Fourier and Ebron now, and Pettigrew was terrible to begin with. She chose him, though, and this is kind of going to be the woman of the league. You can understand this answer. She chose him because she liked the name, because there was a Peter Pettigrew in Harry Potter. So that's one of the reasons she drafted him. But she did draft him in the 13th round, so not terrible there. And then Eric Ebron from Tony. I understand you gotta hope for the best with that receiver. Right. He has just not panned out. He has just been terrible.
Yep, high hopes and just hasn't really gotten the ball.
Yeah. So we'll just go through how everybody ranked in the draft in terms of teams. Cam had the worst draft.
Surprising.
Was surprising. RG3 at the time being the worst player, though. That definitely dropped his score a ton. You also had guys, who were some of his other... I think Michael Floyd hurt him a little bit. D'Angelo Williams killed him because he's been out forever. And Matt Prater didn't play the first 4 games, and now he's not doing great. And then Lattimore in the 15th round didn't play at all. Dave. So I got to take a little bit of heat for this one because I did draft Dave's team, but I drafted it with how I thought Dave would draft, and Dave told me he wouldn't have changed anything. So you know what? Dave's on top of the league right now, so I don't think he's going to be too mad about this rank. But you do have guys. Steven Jackson, the 5th round was way too high for him. He's starting to do well now, but way too high. Michael Crabtree was too high. Kyle Rudolph, as we just saw, was out forever. Stephen Ridley has been injured. Jarrett Boykin, we mentioned, was a bust. James Starks hasn't done anything because Eddie Lacy finally has been doing well. Josh McCown was on there for the worst. Andrew Corliss. So he had a lot of guys that didn't help him. Not any really one guy that's dragging his score down, but just a lot of guys that have hurt. By the way, these are all profile pictures for Facebook. Then we have Nate, team terminal illness, as one of the worst. His was those wide receivers we just mentioned. Monty Ball in the second round. That killed him. I didn't think Monty Ball would be great, but a lot of people did.
And look at the bottom 3 teams for the draft are 3 of the top teams in the rankings right now, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, they are. You have Dave at number 1 and Nate at number 2. That could obviously change, but yeah, that's a good point. Then we have you at number 9. Look at that adorable picture of you and Abby. We already went over kind of what hurt you. Zach Stacy was a big one that hurt you. Torrey Smith didn't start lighting it up until recently. Jordan Reed was injured for most of the year. Seattle at the 6th round. I was surprised you took a defense that early. I will say, if you're going to go to get a defense early, get the best. Unfortunately, they just haven't played that way this year.
Right. I got lucky picking up Miami like week 2 or week 3, and they've just been the number 1, number 2 defense. So I don't regret that too much. But I knew coming out of the draft, my draft was one of the worst. I was so disappointed with the way I did it.
And I didn't agree with you, but I guess you were right about that. Tony, little son there in his profile picture, Chalupa Batman, I assume is what they named him. Tony had C.J. Spiller, who was not great this year. Percy Harvin in the 4th round was a bust. Brandon Cooks has been injured. Cordarrelle Patterson hasn't panned out with AP gone. I think that's taken a lot away from him. Then we have myself, a.k.a. first pick in 2015. That won't be the case anymore unless you decide to trade me your first round.
Did you, so you started out 0-2, and you changed your team name to that. And since then you've been winning. Is it a superstitious thing?
Yes, exactly. Okay. I had lost one game, and I was going to change it after. I said, well, as soon as I lose, I'll change one. It's been working. So I have lost one game, but since then, I started out 0-2. I've been 9-1 in the last 10 games. So I'm leaving it the way it is. Tyler with the number 6. So here we go with the top half of the teams. Tyler, Vinegar Strokes. I liked his old name of Kibbles and Vicks. That was classic. Tyler had good picks in Des Bryant. Eddie Lacy in the 1st round. Finally starting to do well. Stafford bringing him down a little bit recently. Deshaun Jackson did well. Trent Richardson bringing him down. Sammy Watkins bringing him up. Ryan Matthews down. Noshawn down. Antonio Gates up. Steve Smith up. So he's literally had kind of every other have been either up or down. So that's why he's halfway through. So that would make sense. Then we have Jessica, the only woman in the team representing. She's in the top 5 here. She had some good picks, and Aaron Rodgers was her keeper. Le'Veon Bell. Vernon Davis really brought her down. Andre Johnson has been about what we thought, a 4th round pick. T.Y. Hilton been doing very well, though. And then Darren Sproles, considering he was in the 9th round, that's been good too. Looking at the next, there's Micah and his puppy Caesar. He's getting to be huge now. TMNB stands for Teenage Mutant Ninja Bortles, which is a clever name. I'm sure he Googled that. Although he is a smart guy, maybe not. I don't know. Micah had the 1st pick, chose Marshawn Lynch. Then he had Randall Cobb, Julius Thomas, who, if Julius Thomas wasn't injured and was doing well the past couple weeks, would have helped him probably even more. Ben Tate struggled for him. You had Jeremy Maclin in the 7th round, which is huge. Russell Wilson in the 9th round, that was good. So a couple of good guys there. Then we have Evan, who was in the top 2 the last 2 years. He had finished either 1st or 2nd, I believe. So periodically done well, and again, now he's at the bottom, so things can change. You look at some of the picks Evan had. LaShawn McCoy, who struggled, had a good game last week, which doesn't count for these rankings, but has struggled recently. You also have Doug Martin, just been terrible. Awful. Larry Fitzgerald with Carson Palmer out. He can't play. Vincent Jackson hasn't done what he thought we would. We thought he should. Yep, Chris Johnson. Nick Foles is injured now. Yep. Julian Lamar Miller. He's had a lot of bad luck, but so is fantasy football. Then Justin with the number 2 team. Justin had a good draft, Arian Foster, and he did this over the phone for the most part until about the 10th round, and then you guys drafted for him. But yeah, he had some good talent. Pierre Garçon at the beginning of the season. Reggie Bush struggled. Dennis Pitta struggled, but the ones that he hit on big. I mean, Chris Ivory.
Andre Williams at the time. Yep. Ben Roethlisberger in the 13th round. Emmanuel Sanders, Roddy White. So he hit when it counted. And then finally, wow,
who would have thought the rookie came away with the best draft? The problem is he just traded all of his guys away. I will say this. After he made a few trades, I mean, you can look back at one of these weeks. I said, Rick, don't do anything. You lost this week, but your team is going to turn it around. Just hang tight. you got the most balanced team, and balance is what wins you games in the stretch. It's not your starting lineup. And I said, just hang tight. And then he did that huge trade with his first round, and I said, oh man, that just... And he was only one game out of the playoffs, and I think a lot of guys forget that playoffs don't start until week 15. You only have 3 weeks of playoffs, so you play up until that last point. Hopefully with the new systems now, that'll prevent people from tanking. Not that Rick tanked. I understand he wants to defend himself. I think more people are okay with it now because no one has really run away with the league like we thought Justin might with that trade. But yeah, Rick with the top pick, some of his guys, AJ Green, Rob Gronkowski, second round, Tom Brady in the 4th round has been killer lately. You have Mike Wallace in the 7th round, Anquan Bolden in the 11th. So he had some good. Martellus Bennett in the 13th.
Late.
So he's had some good picks. So all in all, what this tells us is the draft is extremely important and not important at the same time. So it's not important because you look at the worst drafts, Nate, Dave, Cam, those are 3 of the top 5 teams. And it is important. And then also you look at Rick, who had the best draft, and now he's one of the worst teams. Same thing with Evan. Tyler's up there. But it is extremely important because if you're willing to make a ton of moves, as long as you hit on these guys in the late rounds, Emmanuel Sanders, DeAndre Hopkins, Kelvin Benjamin, if you can hit on those guys and you can pick those guys correctly late in the rounds, it's extremely important because you don't have to worry about picking them up in free agency.
Right.
So that is what we have for our visual evaluation. So that's all we have. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little recap video. Hopefully you were able to watch this either not while driving, but if you were riding with other people, visiting family today, just waiting for that turkey to finish, or maybe right before football. Go Lions against the Bears today. Big game. Need to win this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Obviously we'll maintain the regular schedule throughout, and I don't think we'll have any kind of out-of-the-ordinary videos until the finale when Micah's going to hand out a lot of awards. So he's got a lot of them. They seem pretty cool. We'll go through that when the time comes. But have a happy Thanksgiving. Drive safe, travel safe, eat safe, cook safe, do everything safe. It's a pleasure to be in this league with you guys, and have a good one.